Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. We're gonna do some painting today. We're gonna paint a goldfish. I don't know why I said it like that. I got a request to paint a goldfish, or to paint a fish, and so I thought, why not? The person that requested said that they'd had some trouble making the fish look like it had movement, it was too stiff. So what we're gonna do is draw a fish. We're gonna start with kind of like a fancy goldfish here. I'm starting with this kind of jelly bean shape, kidney bean shape for the head, and I'm going with this other I don't know, lozenge shape for the body, another little bump here. So it almost looks like a cartoon marshmallow pointing. I don't know how else to describe it. So there we have the body, and that's going to be firm and thick and stiff and solid. So what we want our fins, to be very airy, very airy. So I'm not even gonna, you know, fully sketch them, and I just kind of want to get the essence of them, because we're going to be wetting the paper and we're going to be putting in lots of paint. So I just wanted to get this in here. You could sketch this with a pencil if you prefer. I'm using an Inktense pencil, which is a type of water soluble pencil, because I just want to make sure that it will kind of flow out and dissolve as I go. And we'll get the eyeball in here. There we go. So there we've got the basic fish drawn. So what I want to do now is use a large flat brush. I'm using a Royal Aqualon by Royal Langnickel. Really like these brushes since they're fresh water, and I'm just going to brush over my paper. I'm going to go around the fish to start, just to kind of so I don't end up with a yellow piece of paper, because that those Inktense pencils are very vivid. And then I'm going to just gently brush over that, because I don't want a very stiff background. You know, I don't want the fins to feel like I've painted around them. So what I've done here, I'm just going around there. I'm not painting over the body. I am going just over the edge of the lines there a little bit to help dissolve them, but I want to keep the part that's going to be solid. I'm going to keep that dry, because I do want that to be kind of a hard edge and kind of solid and substantial. But the rest, I want to kind of be a little translucent and float into the background, so it does appear that this fish is not all solid. And then I want to throw in some watercolors, and I think I'm going to use some turquoise or Prussian blue here. I'm working with my Yarka palette right now. I do like that. Now I'm going to go around the fins a bit. Because I don't want to have to try to paint over that, because it's going to turn green if I do that. So I'm just kind of going up to and around, and it's going to get kind of fuzzy, and that's all right. And then I think I might add maybe some purple, because I think that would look really nice with the gold of the goldfish. So you can mix your own purple, or I've actually got some violet here I'm going to use. And again, I'm just going to kind of put it in around my fish. It's not going to go into the fish's body here, because I left that part of the paper dry. I just kind of, and I also want to use some colors that I don't typically work with, and I think that's kind of a nice way to break yourself out of a creative rut if you find yourself kind of struggling and kind of feeling stuck. And then maybe some green. I think I'll put in some like emerald. That's another color I rarely use, so I think that would be kind of fun to throw in there. Sometimes you just have to use a different palette. This is my Yarka palette. I don't use it all that often, so I had it in my bag because I had taught a class and I wanted to bring some extras just in case I had some students without supplies. And I thought, you know, yeah, let's do that. Let's use that a little bit. And I'm just going in, adding my color. Now this is going to dry lighter, so if you're a little nervous about how dark it is right now, don't worry, it's going to be lighter. Plus we want a little contrast between our fish and the background. So you know, you can keep adding colors as long as that background's wet. It's gonna respond really well. And then when we're completely sure we're done, then we can go ahead and dry it. But I just wanted to keep the fins soft and the body hard. There we go. And then if I feel like I have like that weird edge there that I don't want, what I'll do is I'll take a paper towel, I'll dry my brush off, I'll just kind of have it damp, it's clean and damp, and I can just kind of brush over that edge and soften it up a little bit. So dry it, blot it off, and then you can just soften any areas you feel like are a little too hard, like maybe up there. And then if you feel like I'm going a little too fast and you'd like to pause the video, go ahead and do that. That's a wonderful thing about videos, as opposed to being in a class. You can pause it whenever you need. Come back to it later. Like if you needed a break in this painting, this would be a great time to take it while you're waiting for the background to dry, and you can always come back in later and work on it. I feel like I want to add a little more color there by the head. I'm going to go with the blue again. Right in like that. And I don't want to introduce too much water as I'm doing this, because if I have a wetter area on a damp background, it will cause a bloom. And sometimes that looks really cool, but sometimes it isn't what you want. So I just wanted to control that a little bit. And you can soften the edge there if you want to, or you don't have to. It's completely up to you. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pause the camera. I am going to dry this, and we'll come back and we'll paint the fish. Okay, we're back. You can probably notice the shift in the background, how it's a little bit lighter now. That happens when your paint dries, so that's just, I'm sure you can really see it on the video, you know, going from wet to dry. So hopefully that helps you out a little bit. Now I'm going to switch to a round brush, and I've got a number 6 round. You could use anything between like I would say like a 4 and a 10, depending on what you prefer and how big you're working. This is just a 5x7 watercolor card. And I'm going to get some Cadmium Red right on my palette. I like to put my stuff out on my palette rather than going right from the cake of color, because sometimes you get a gob of paint and it's just a little harder to control. And I'm also going to grab a little bit of Cadmium Yellow. I need to clean that out. I got a messy Cadmium Yellow. I must have either been remiss when I used it last, or my kids used it, one or the other. With the yellow there, you could still, it's a little grimy. Yuck. And because I'm wanting to use some different colors than I normally use, I'm going to grab some Cadmium Orange too. And I also got my homemade shimmer paint, the eyeshadow. I use a dollar store eyeshadow and some gum arabic and made my own little watercolor paint. But if you have some other shimmer paint, go ahead and use that. That's fine. I'm a little disturbed with how filthy that pan of yellow is. Oh my goodness. And then I'm going to just wet the body with my brush. And I am being careful that I only add water to the body and I don't go outside to the fins right now. And as it liquefies the pencil that I sketched with, it's just kind of going away. The pencil's just kind of absorbing into the body, and that's fine. Go right over the eyeball. I'll put the eye in after it dries. Now I'm going to go in with the red, and I'm going to add it here up to the top. I like to paint on wet paper personally, because I just love to watch the colors go. I find that very satisfying for some reason. I think it's because I just love that teeny little bit of surprise that even no matter how much you paint and how much experience you have, there's always that little bit of surprise when you put that watercolor down onto the wet paper. What's it gonna do? Where's it going? You know, it's fun. And the other thing I love about watercolors is that they are always ready to go. They're ready to go when you are. You can like spontaneously decide, I gotta paint something right now, and your paints are ready to go. And I love that. There's no setup time like with oils or acrylics. There's no cleanup time really, other than, you know, spraying your palette, wiping it off, and then you're good to go for the next time. So I just love that about watercolor paints as opposed to other art mediums. I love that I can keep them, you know, keep a set of paints and a little postcard pad in my car, in my dashboard, and I'm good to go when inspiration strikes. If I'm at the beach, if I'm, you know, waiting at a doctor's appointment, I can be ready to paint at any time. You know, if I see something pretty, I just want to stop and paint, I can. Add a little bit more red up there into the back of the head because I was losing my color. It was getting a little too muddled. And I can refine the shape of the head a little bit if I need to. Like give him a little bit of a nose there. Alright, and then I can just kind of leave this be. If I want to add the gold to that, I can do that too while it's still wet. Hopefully I sprayed my paint before I began, and it looks like it's all, look how juicy that is. Looks nice. You want to make sure that if you make your own metallic paint, or if you buy metallic paint, that you let it completely, the watercolors, I mean, you let it completely dry before you recap it, or you're going to end up with some moldy paint, and that's kind of gross. You don't want that to happen. So There you go. I'm just dripping some in. And I think because I want to get a little scaly effect, and I'm thinking I might get a really cool scaly effect if I drop some salt in there, because it does give you that kind of like sparkliness. So I'm going to drop some salt in there, and we're going to hope that that's going to give us the effect that we want. I'm pretty sure it will. I put a little salt in there. But you know, if you want to wait and see how mine turns out before you go for it, then you are more than welcome to do that. And this is just kosher salt, which just is a little bit less uniform than regular table salt, but you can use table salt too, absolutely. And I somehow managed to see some glitter. I think I had glitter on that bag. You never know. I just kind of shoved stuff out of the way so I didn't have enough room to paint today. Oh, I've got so much to do. It's like, oh, but I just gotta paint, just gotta paint for a few minutes before I do my real work. You know how that is. And now I'm going to wet the fins, and I'm actually gonna just pretend that I'm painting the fins with just water. All right, and because the key is here, we cannot fuss with the fins or they're going to look unnatural. So then I could actually even just kind of wet the edge of the body here and let some of that color flow. I'm gonna just add a little bit of color in here, paint in a few like little streaky details, but really I want the paint to do the work. If you want a fine line, you'll go right on the tip of your brush. Hold your brush at a 90-degree angle with the paper. If you want some fine lines, remember your paint is going to flow though, because you are working on a wet surface. Now if you want any defined lines on the other fins, go ahead and put them in before you wet. I just want a few in there. Go in with some gold, with some orange. Let some colors flood. You can also use your credit card scraper if you want to put some fine lines in there. I'm feeling mellow. I have a quiet house. Kids are all off doing their thing today, and I can get some work done. Don't tell anybody. I'm just fooling around painting right now. I should really be doing some other stuff, but you know, you just got to take that creative time. I think everyone deserves a little bit of creative time. And you know what? It's like, why don't we don't feel guilty when we sit in front of the TV? Nobody judges us if we, you know, if you're just watching TV. But I think a lot of times creative people feel judged that they wish to spend their time doing creative things. And I think that's totally backwards. I think that's one of the best things that you can do. And I think it's a shame that people feel like they can't indulge in anything creative until everything else for everybody else is done. I think that's baloney. I think you're going to be a much better giver if you take care of yourself first. Just like, you know, when you're in the airplane, they say put your own mask on first before you try to help anybody else with theirs. I think it's the same thing. Once you feel fulfilled in your life, you're gonna be a much better, you know, mother, father, wife, husband, because you've taken that time for yourself. You've invested in yourself, so then you can invest in others. I don't know, maybe I'm just selfish. But if I am, I don't know. I don't think I am. I think that, you know, we all need that time. And if we can spend half an hour watching TV in the evening, we can spend 20 minutes painting. You know, you might have to trade some of that time, but I think it's worth it. I think you're all worth it. You're all worth spending that time on. I feel like I need a little bit of maybe a little more finniness there, but let me go with a different color so I have a little contrast. Let me go with that orange. Put a little bit of a fin back there. Maybe I need some red in that too to kind of cover up the emerald. I love these goldfish. They're so frilly and flouncy. I've never had fish like this though. I've got a goldfish that I swear it's old too. All the other ones in the tank have died. This one is just like lingering on. All right, so I'm gonna let that dry because I can't do the eye or anything else until that happens. So let's pause this, dry this, and we'll be back and finish it up. Okay, I didn't get, I got a little bit of a scaliness, but not as much as I was hoping in there, but you know, I think that's all right. I'm going to now add some, I want to do a couple things. I want to add some details to the fish, and I also maybe want to add just a little bit of, I don't know, maybe like seaweed or something for the fish to be kind of going down after. So I think what I'm going to do, clean off my brush there, I'm going to just kind of paint some like seaweed, just some little grasses here with my brush. And then I'm going to take that emerald, because we've already used that color, and I'm just gonna kind of charge it in there and let it do its thing. Just kind of tip my brush around. And then I'm gonna take some of that yellow and also add that in there, because I don't like to add new colors at this stage of the game. I like to kind of keep it, you know, keep it with the same colors so that I have a harmony in my picture. And I could put just a little bit in front of the fish, but I don't want to do too much of that. Maybe a little bit over there just to balance it out a little bit. And then on the fish, to make the eye, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make my own black, and I'm going to take the emerald green and the red that I was using, and that's going to give me a really nice natural black, because again, I don't want to add a new color. So see how nice and black that is right there? It's like a perfect black. And I'm just going to go ahead and paint that in with the tip of my brush. You keep your brush straight up and down practically, and you'll have a nice fine point to work with. And then I can always cut, like use a little X-Acto knife and scrape out a little detail if I need to after. And I can also water some of this down, even add a little yellow to it, and then I've got this nice shadow color, and I can add the shadow here, like kind of in the gills, anywhere on the body that I want to have a little bit more definition. I don't want to do this on the fins, because I want to kind of keep that very loose and flouncy and airy. I want that to kind of be floaty in the water. So this detail I'm putting on is on the head. And I'm going to go in with a little bit more of that bright red, that cadmium red that I was using, because I feel like I really want a little bit more here at the top. Like I felt like I lost a lot of that when it dried. And then maybe a little bit more yellow here and there. And it's really hard to see how it's going to turn out until it's dry. So don't be freaking out if you think that you've kind of you've gotten too dark, you've overdone it, because you really can't tell until it's dry. Now I'm also going to just dab on some texture here so it looks a little bit more scaly. Remember, less is more. You're just suggesting these textures, and I think that's what happens when a painting ends up too stiff. You've overpainted it. You've added too much detail, and your brain really doesn't see that much detail. Your eyes don't see that much detail. Your brain tells you what you're seeing, but your eyes just kind of see the basic outlines. Now I could put a little bit of detail up here. I don't want to go too crazy. Just a few flicks of my brush, and maybe just a few back here just for movement, but really I don't want to add too much. So let's let that dry, and then we'll see how it turns out. Oh, you know what, before I'm done, maybe I'll put a few little just watery streaks of some blue here, just to kind of give a little movement to the water, because everything's really faded out in the water. It's up to you whether you like that or whether you want to do that or not. You know, you don't have to. I just want to kind of, you can kind of go over the fins and stuff and just add a little blending to it. But again, that's your discretion. Go ahead and do that if you want, or skip it if you don't. If you have a big puddle there, don't let it dry just as it is. Dry your brush off, set it in the puddle, and it will suck up the water. It'll drink it right up so that you don't end up with weird blooms. Sometimes they look really awesome, sometimes they don't. So it's a good idea to kind of keep that in check if you're not sure. And you can add a little more pigment to that if you want to make it stand out a little bit more. So we're gonna let that dry, and we'll be back and we'll see how the painting turned out. So exciting! All right, this technique I'm really excited to show you. It's using an X-Acto knife, and you can like carve out like little sparkles and details. It's really great for when you need to add like the sparkle in an eye and make it look a little bit more realistic. You just kind of cut off that top layer of paper that has the paint on it, and then you can go in. I'm going to go in with actually a smaller brush, and I'm going to just paint a little bit around the eye. Now I can't find my smaller brush. Hold on, let's pause it. It's not the one I was going for, but it's going to be fine. And I'm actually going to put a little bit of this gold eyeshadow paint. I do have a video on how to make this. I'll put a link below the video if you want to see how to make that eyeshadow paint if my description wasn't good enough. So this is a little bit thicker than I would want to use for a brush, but I'm going to add a little bit of that gold right around the eye, just to kind of give it a little bit of a little more definition. And I can dab in some more of that gold really thick wherever I want it. And really that's all there is to this painting. You can add a little glossy highlight up there if you want. You can do that with a metallic paint. It's kind of fun. I really like the using that metallic paint in my work, especially on a card where it's going to be held and, you know, it'll be moved and you can, you know, catch the light like that. See if I tip it, you can see the shimmer. Since this is a card, not something that's going to be matted, it works really well for that. Just don't go too crazy with it, and I think you'll really enjoy it too. I want to thank you so much for watching. Please give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you like this video, and until next time, happy crafting.